بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين أما بعد فقد قال عز وجل بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل إنما العلم عند الله صدق الله العظيم. Yesterday we were discovering what the author he mentions regarding how the Quran is one of the best ways for us to benefit from Islam. If you want to understand Islam, if you want to understand what Allah is saying, then the Quran is always the primary source. Just to continue, he mentions that أولئك المؤمنون آمنوا بأنه سبحانه هو الذي له الكمال وحده وأنه الحق الأعلى الذي لا يؤنى عليه. That by means of the Quran and the verses we mentioned yesterday, a mu'min will always realize that Allah, He is the being who has kamal, He has no defect. There's no way a person can improve Him. And Allah Himself, He is the being who is above everyone. لا يؤلى عليه. No one can come close to even trying to overpower Allah. Allah is well above everyone else. And this is the understanding we get from the Quran. We can't come close to Allah. And وَأَنَّهُ الْغَنِيُّ بِنَفْسِهِ عَمَّنْ سِوَى. Allah Himself is not in need of anyone else. And this is a very important concept for us to appreciate, how our relation with Allah is based on this kind of understanding. وَآمَنُوا بِأَنَّ كُلَّ مَنْ دُونَ اللَّهِ فَهُوَ لِلَّهِ عَبْدٌ. The way this is relevant to us is that when we realize Allah doesn't need us, we realize that every being, every single creation which is below Allah is a slave of Allah, then becomes completely dependent on Allah. So everything below Allah is lillahi abdun, is a slave of Allah. لَيْسَ لَهُ مِنْ عِلْمٍ مِنْ شَيْءٍ إِلَّا مَا عَلَّمَهُ اللَّهُ. To the extent that none of us can know anything, even the basic of things. We can't even know something unless Allah teaches this thing. So it's a very basic concept which the Quran repeatedly emphasizes on. The Quran is always talking about this, how Allah is independent, Allah has created everything, Allah has created us, given us everything. So everything we have is from Allah. Allah doesn't need us and we need Allah. The Quran mentions, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, قُلْ إِنَّمَا الْإِلْمُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. That say that إِنَّمَا الْإِلْمُ, all knowledge is in reality only with Allah. Knowledge is not in any other part. We don't actually know much unless, we don't know anything unless Allah has given us that knowledge. Every knowledge that we have has come from Allah. So it's very important to understand that while we're born without anything. آمنوا بقوله والله أخرجكم من بطون أمهاتكم لا تعلمون شيئا. That Allah took you out from the wombs of your mothers in a condition where لا تعلمون شيئا. You knew absolutely nothing. You were completely oblivious to everything. You had no knowledge at all. So Allah reminds us of that. There was a time when you knew absolutely nothing. You could do nothing. You were completely incapable. And still that knowledge which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, it only comes from Allah. Allah only taught us. Where Allah explains, وَجَعَلَ لَكُمْ, Allah then created for you السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْأَفْئِدَةَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. Allah created for you eyes so you can see, created ears so you can hear. He also gave you hearts for which you can understand. All of these blessings that Allah gave, it's in order for you to be able to eventually have gratitude. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. So we realize that we ourselves know nothing. All of our knowledge comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are completely dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and forever will be dependent on Allah. And our knowledge, originally we knew nothing, and the only knowledge that we have is that knowledge which Allah has given us. So the entirety of our existence is based on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessings. Allah also mentions this very explicitly, that عَلَّمَ الْإِنسَانَ مَا لَمْ يَعْلَمْ, that Allah, He taught humankind everything which He didn't know. So based on this premise, the author continues, فَلَمَّا آمَنُوا بِذَلِكَ كُلِّهِ كَانَ مَا اتصل سَنَدُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ بذكر قوله تعالى أو قول رسول الكريم صلى الله عليه وسلم الناطق بوحيه هو العلم الواجب الاتباع والذكر المقتفى. Then he mentions that when somebody has believed in the above, that all knowledge comes from Allah. We knew nothing, absolutely nothing. We were completely incapable. We're completely dependent on Allah. And all knowledge is with Allah, and Allah has given some knowledge to us. He's taught insan some things. So now when a person, he believes this, then when there's a completely authentic chain from a person to something which Allah has said and when Allah has taught, Either because Allah has mentioned it, or more the way that we understand it, because the Prophet ﷺ was given wahi by Allah, and then the Prophet ﷺ said these things. So in one of these two ways. Then the Prophet ﷺ, he's natik bi wahyihi, he says that the wahi of Allah. Then all of this knowledge which we get from Allah is ilmun wajibul ittiba. This is knowledge which we then have to follow. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's originally given us some knowledge, and then now we know that Allah has sent a book from Himself, and then we have a direct chain to that book. The Prophet ﷺ, the Quran which he recited and the ayat which he would recite is directly from Allah. So now, for a person, even from a logical perspective, when we knew nothing except that which Allah has taught us, now Allah specifically sends us a whole message, a whole book, a whole letter, full of different things that we should do. So everything inside that book becomes something which is dhikrul muqtafa. It's a reminder which is more than sufficient for everyone. It's a perfect reminder. And everything in there becomes necessary to follow. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions, فَذَكِّرْ بِالْقُرْآنِ مَنْ يَخَافُ وَعِيدٍ. Now, a person who wants to really understand and try and remind himself, become a better person, then they should use the Quran to remind one another. Use the ayat of the Quran to remind one another. فَذَكِّرْ بِالْقُرْآنِ مَنْ يَخَافُ وَعِيدٍ. Again, the opposite of what we done yesterday. Yesterday we said that certain deaf people, you'll have the wahi coming directly to them, but they won't listen. Here, if a person wants to listen, then the person, when he opens his heart to the Quran, he will change his life. And then he carries on explaining that Allah is that being who has created everything in the way it's meant to be created. And لَهُوَ الْعَلِيمُ الْوَحْدَ بِمَا يَخْبِطُهُمْ لَهُ وَيُنِيبُهُمْ إِلَيْهِ وَبِمَا يُمْضِيهِمْ إِلَيْهِ. So when Allah created everything, He created the whole creation with the truth. He created it for His true purpose as well. The true purpose is to worship Him and not to ascribe any partners to Him. If that's our fundamental thing, we have a relationship with Allah. So Allah created us for this main purpose, to worship Him. Then Allah, He is the most knowledgeable with regards to those things which will yakhbituhum, which will take people away from this path. So if we remember our true purpose, Allah has established it, to worship Him. Now in the Quran, Allah mentions how it is that we'll go astray from that path. He also mentions those things yunibuhum ilay, which will get us closer to Allah. And وَبِمَا يُمْضِيهِمْ لِتِلْكَ الْغَايَةِ. Everything which will help him travel on to the end destination, that tilka al-ghaya, the end destination which we have of the worship of Allah, everything that will help us, make it better for us and make it easier for us to get to that destination, Allah explains all of that in the Quran. This is what the Muslim mentions. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even He describes in the Quran, فَذَكِّرْ بِالْقُرْآنِ مَنْ يَخَافُ وَعِيدٍ. This is the verse Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains. And so the reality is that the Quran is always the real thing. So this is the build-up. He wants to draw our attention back to the Quran before we come on to a book which focuses on other kind of narrations of the Salaf. So obviously the question comes that why, if the Quran is so great, is he writing an explanation on this book? So he explains, وَإِنَّمَا نُورِدُ مَآثِرَهُمْ مِنْ قَبِيلٍ. The only reason we've facilitated the publishing of this book is وَفِي ذَلِكَ فَلْيَتَنَافَسِ الْمُتَنَافِسُونَ, is that in the Quran there's a verse that فِي ذَلِكَ, in terms of the Quran, a person فَلْيَتَنَافَسِ الْمُتَنَافِسُونَ, everybody should compete with one another. There should be competition. You should look at how well other people done, and then compare that with your own life and see how you are doing that yourself. So then, now he asks some questions again. وَعَلَى الْمَرْءِ الْكَيِّسِ أَنْ يَنْظُرْ إِلَى هَؤُلَاءِ. Then, so the book which we're about to study, it contains the stories of the people of the past, or incidents from the people of the past, or sometimes just sayings of the people of the past, which a lot of it is not from the Quran, but things which they said, things which they done, and things which overall will benefit us. So then he asks the question, any intelligent person, he should look at these people and the way that they live their lives. أَوَلَمْ يَكُونُوا بَشَرًا. They were also human beings. So now, if a person was to write a book which isn't based on the Quran, we can see the benefit that we'll take is that other human beings who after the time of the Prophet, after the Sahaba, they passed away, they still managed to become so amazing, basically, so next level people, so to speak. So they were still human beings. أَوَلَمْ تَكُنْ لَهُمْ رَغْبَاتٌ لِلدُّنْيَا كَمَا تَكُونُ لِأَهْلِ هَذَا الْأَسْرِ رَغْبَاتٌ. Did they not have desires for the world and for woman and wealth and respect and fame? They had the same desires, just like the people of this zamana have the same desires as well. So this is how Allah explains that the Muslim, if he asks this question, that the same way that we have desires for the world and we make excuses for things, they also had the opportunity. They had desires for the world. They had things they wanted to do as well. فَلِمَ اسْتَقَامَ الْأَوَّلُونَ وَلِمَ لَمْ يَسْتَقِمِ الْآخَرُونَ. That how come the first people, they managed to do istiqamah, they managed to stay firm, they managed to stick firmly, and the whole story will be, the book will be full of incidents like this. So when we hear these incidents, we hear that this person, he managed to do this person managed to do this person, he said this, he had this opinion. So we learn that they were so firm on their Islam. So how come they were so firm on their Islam and we aren't? أَوَهُمْ أَوْلَى بِالْجَنَّةِ مِنْهُمْ. Is it such that they were more worthy of Jannah almost? Is this the kind of thing that we think? أَمِ الْآخَرُونَ يُرِيدُونَ النَّارَ. And the people nowadays all want to go into Jahannam. Is it? This is not really the mentality that we believe in. We believe we all want to go to Jannah. They had effort, they put effort into it and they took it seriously. This is what he says. فالقيس الفاتن ذلك الذي يتنافس معهم وتحدث له الغير في الله. That a person, now when we look at their stories, the way they lived their lives, the way they interacted with other people, the things that they believed in, when we look at them, then Al-Qais al-Fatin, a very intelligent person, will be that person who will try and himself compete with these people. Despite their very, very high caliber, he himself will put himself on a pedestal and he will compete with the way that they used to do things. فَيَبِيءُ نَفْسَهُ لِلَّهِ كَمَا بَاءُوا لِيَرِيهُ أَعْدَمَ سِلْعَهُ. These people, they sold themselves for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They gave themselves up for the sake of Allah. It was a great sacrifice which they made. Allah even mentions in the Quran, إِنَّ اللَّهَ اشْتَرَى مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ أَنفُسَهُم وَأَمْوَالَهُم بِأَنَّ لَهُمُ الْجَنَّةَ يُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ فَيَقْتُلُونَ وَيُقْتَلُونَ. Allah mentions in the Quran that Allah has bought the lives of the mu'mineen from them, that the way that they live in their lives is for the sake of Allah, and they sacrifice the small time which they have here for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the eternal happiness which they have. So they sell themselves, وَمَالَهُ وَشَحْوَاتَهُ وَمَلَذَّاتَهُ, all of the pleasures which they have, the wealth which they want to acquire, the children who they want to do things which they're not supposed to do for, and all of their pleasures and the shahawat, all of the things which they want to do, everything which they aspire to achieve, they make some kind of sacrifice and they give up something in this world in order for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And كُلُّ ذَلِكَ لِلْوَهَّابَ الَّذِي وَهَبَهُ كُلَّ ذَلِكَ. And then when you put it like this, it doesn't make it seem like such an amazing thing. All of that was done for that Wahhab, for that person who gave it in the first place. لِلْوَهَّابَ الَّذِي, that Wahhab, that immense giver who gave all of these things in the first place. So to make these sacrifices for a being who gave all of these blessings to us in the first place, and the two things which nobody denies that he gave, وَهَبَهُ النَّفْس وَوَهَبَهُ الْمَالِ, all of the achievements that he has, his own life, all of the limbs that he uses all the time, the air that he breathes, all of these things came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how, after realizing this, then what we realize is essentially none of it actually belonged to us in the first place. So we all make this sacrifice of our lives and our accumulation, and we try and give up some of it for the sake of Allah, so that we can try and compete with the people of the past and the achievements which they had, so we can try and put ourselves on some kind of pedestal as well. We can try and make some kind of achievement for ourselves in the akhirah as well. We try and make some kind of sacrifice like this. And so this explains how, despite his emphasis and he draws a lot of attention to the value of the Quran, but also to look at other narrations and other stories of the people of the past also carries a lot of benefit. These are some of the few benefits that it also contains. He then continues to explain the way that he'll explain the book, and he also seeks forgiveness for any mistakes which he makes. And obviously the Muqaddimah has taken a little longer. Inshallah next from tomorrow inshallah we'll start the book itself, and inshallah there we'll find the narrations and the stories which he's been talking about here. So inshallah I make dua that gives us ability to understand and act upon what has been said today.